A few days ago, I decided to go on a solo camping trip to Red Rock Canyon. I wanted to disconnect from everything and find inspiration for my book on wilderness survival. I wasn't a beginner, but I wasn't an expert either. I just wanted a few days in the wild to spark my creativity. I didn't realize how wrong that idea was. I set up camp near a dry creek bed. The air felt still as the sun sank down. I built a fire and sat back, listening to nature. Everything seemed normal. I relaxed, maybe too much. Around midnight, I crawled out of my tent to look at the stars. The sky was clear, and everything felt peaceful. But then I heard it, rustling in the bushes. My heart raced. Just some wildlife, I told myself. But then I heard a sound that twisted my stomach. It was a distorted human cry. I felt a chill run down my spine. Was it my imagination? I shook it off, convincing myself it was just the dark playing tricks on me. The next day I hiked the rugged trails. I found strange tracks near my campsite. They didn't look like any animals I knew. I stared at them, uneasy. I had a feeling I was being watched. The birds were quiet, not a sound from them. I tried to dismiss it, thinking it was just the mood of the canyon, but I wasn't sure. That night, as I lay in my sleeping bag, whispers echoed from the rock faces. I couldn't understand the words, but it was creepy. I sat up, feeling surrounded by something unseen. My mind raced. I thought about the stories I had read. Skinwalkers, creatures lurking in the shadows. I shook my head again. It was nothing, I told myself, but it got stranger. I caught glimpses of tall, thin shapes moving in the distance. My gut twisted. I was no longer just dealing with missing wildlife. Something was there with me. On the fourth night, I felt crushed under my own anxiety. I turned on my flashlight, scanning the dark canyon walls. I heard my name being called in a voice that didn't feel right. Then everything went silent. My skin prickled as I realized how truly isolated I was. Just then, something moved at the edge of my campsite. It was a dark shape, standing still. I wanted to call out, but I couldn't. I was frozen. Then it whispered something I couldn't make out. My blood ran cold. "Who's there?" I managed to ask. No answer came. Whatever I had stumbled into, my fear felt real. I gripped my flashlight tightly. I didn't know what was next. I just stood there, waiting and afraid. I could only think of the stories, hoping this wouldn't be one of them. I wanted to get out, but out there, in that canyon, I was trapped in someone else's nightmare. I didn't know how long I stood there, frozen in fear. The dark figure remained silent, its presence looming like a shadow among shadows. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it real? Was I dreaming? I was desperate to count the moments until dawn. Just then, a loud crack echoed through the canyon, like a branch snapping underfoot. The figure jerked, startled. I could see its outline shifting slightly. Heart pounding, I took a faltering step back. Suddenly, it darted into the darkness, disappearing into the trees. I exhaled reflexively, feeling dizzy. I tried to shake off a sense of impending doom. I needed to be rational. Or maybe I should leave. I grabbed my backpack, feeling around for my map and my phone. The battery was low. I cursed under my breath. My only map was a printed one, fragile and crumpled in my hands. I knew I had to get moving. I picked a direction, anything but where that figure had gone. The sun wouldn't rise for hours, but I felt the weight of the darkness pressing in. I stumbled over rocks and loose gravel, each sound amplified in the stillness. The whispering had stopped, but the air felt charged, as if something lurked just beyond the reach of my flashlight. Minutes felt like hours. My mind kept replaying the distorted cry I'd heard earlier. I wanted to scream into the void, to confront whatever was out there. But I knew that would show weakness. It might attract attention. Then I recalled the tracks I had seen. They could belong to whatever was chasing me. My stomach twisted into knots again. I tried to focus on my surroundings, scanning the canyon walls for any telltale signs. That's when I saw it. a small cave entrance half hidden by a cluster of low brush, almost camouflaged. My instincts urged me to run past it, to avoid any potential trap. But then, another noise cut through the silence, a quick rustling like something shifting inside. Without thinking, I moved closer. I felt drawn to it. Maybe it was a dead end. Maybe it was a hideout for a lost animal. Something in me hoped it could offer shelter, a temporary refuge. I crouched low, trying to peer inside. My flashlight wavered slightly, and that's when I saw movement. With bated breath, I focused the beam deeper into the cave. My heart dropped. There were markings on the walls, scratches, symbols I couldn't recognize, faint and jagged like desperate claw marks. My fingers tingled as I traced their outlines with the beam, but I knew I shouldn't linger. I turned to leave when I heard a voice. It came from within, distorted and soft. "Help me." The chilling words echoed, making my skin crawl. It was unmistakably human. Was it a trick? I couldn't tell. Before I could decide, a shadow moved again at the entrance, blocking out my light. I stumbled backward, heart racing as the darkness shifted before me. Whatever stood there wasn't alone. I had found something, but I wasn't sure if I wanted it. The cave wasn't a sanctuary. It felt like a threshold to a deeper darkness. I needed a plan. But standing there, I realized I might be too late for that. I felt the air grow heavy with tension as the silhouette at the entrance loomed closer. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my body refused to obey. Something primal rooted me to the spot. The figure shifted slightly, revealing a sharp line of a jaw and hollow cheeks that looked almost human, yet something was fundamentally wrong. "Help me," the voice came again, wavering as if mixed with the sound of rustling leaves. A wave of panic surged through me, and I stole a glance behind. The darkness felt like a wall, an impenetrable barrier that could swallow me whole. "Who are you?" I called out, trying to buy myself time. The figure did not respond, but advanced slowly. I could almost see its eyes reflecting the beam of my flashlight, distant and cold, like two dark pools of water. I took another nervous step back, feeling the rough surface of the cave wall press against my back. Trapped. I glanced inside the cave one more time. The markings on the walls seemed to pulse with eerie expectation, and I shivered at the thought of what they might signify. Then it happened. A loud crash erupted from the brush behind me, making me jump. It sounded like something large had tripped over the branches, and the sound filled the stillness with a fresh wave of dread. I turned my head just in time to see another dark figure emerge from the thicket. A second presence, larger and more menacing, its form shifting like smoke. "Run!" I heard the raspy voice from within the cave shout again, and suddenly I was propelled into action. I didn't need to think. The instinct to survive kicked in. I dashed sideways into the cave, heart pounding in my ears. I gasped as I entered the dim, cold space, flashes of anxiety coursing through me as chaos erupted outside. But the cave felt like a different world, an ancient and forgotten one. Instead of solace, I was enveloped by a tightness in my throat. I turned my back to the entrance and aimed the flashlight into the darkness, searching for anything to use as a weapon or a means of escape. The cave twisted deeper than I anticipated, branching off into darker passages that seemed to beckon me inward. "Help me!" The voice came again, but this time it didn't feel like a plea. It morphed into something threatening, an echo transformed by the cave's acoustics. I hesitated, not wanting to respond, unsure if turning back would mean confronting that creeping dread again. I heard the soft padding of footsteps approaching from behind. I held my breath, hoping the entrance wouldn't betray me. But then a faint scuffling grew louder, and the cavern walls trembled like they were alive. I couldn't stay still. "We need to move," I whispered to myself, adrenaline spiking. Whatever was in here with me was getting closer. I took my first step deeper into the cave, abandoning the entrance and the inexplicable danger lurking outside. The walls seemed closer now, and the air felt thick and intoxicating. I pressed on, not knowing what lay ahead, but certain that staying behind wasn't an option. Just then, a low growl emanated from the mouth of the cave. I froze, another shockwave of fear rippling through me. What was waiting for me in the dark? I pushed forward, my flashlight flickering unevenly against the damp stone. The growl resonated again, a low rumble that felt like it vibrated through my bones. Panic clawed at me, urging me to run, but I was rooted, heart racing in a different kind of fear. The voice echoed one more time, sharper now. "Help me!" The desperation was layered with something darker, something more sinister. I wanted to scream, to shout back, but no sound left my lips. Instead, the light from my flashlight fell onto a crevice in the cave wall. I approached hesitantly. It was a narrow passage, barely wide enough for me to squeeze through. It looked like a potential hiding spot, or perhaps a way out. I glanced back, half expecting to see the figure from before enter the cave. The darkness pulsed, but silence followed. With a sharp inhale, I plunged into the narrow passage, feeling the stone scrape against my skin. It closed in tighter, and the air became claustrophobic. Panic was building again, and I pressed on, hoping this would lead me somewhere safe. The passage twisted sharply and opened abruptly into a small chamber, dimly lit by bioluminescent fungi that clung to the walls. The soft green glow revealed markings, once again symbols carved into the rock, resembling those I'd seen at the entrance. They looked ancient and primal, almost like a warning. My heart raced as I traced my fingers along the carvings. Then I spotted something glinting in the shadows, a small object lying on the ground. I leaned down, coughing as dust swirled around me, and picked it up. It was a necklace, an old amulet with strange symbols etched into it. It felt cool in my palm, heavy with the weight of its history. The air shifted suddenly, and I sensed I wasn't alone. I stood frozen, the sweat on my brow mingling with streaks of dirt. A wave of unease washed over me. I could feel it watching me, lurking behind the shadows. My instincts kicked in, and I turned to leave. But before I could, a screech pierced the air. The sound seemed to distort the very fabric of the cave. I dropped the amulet and stumbled backward, the glow of the fungi fading as darkness enveloped me. Then I heard it, a skittering sound, rapid and chaotic. I was trapped, cornered in this small chamber, my flashlight flickering weakly in and out of existence. I moved towards the passage I had entered through, but it felt narrower now, as though the cave was constricting around me. The screech came again, louder this time, followed by a rush of something that flickered in the shadows. I knew whatever it was closer. The instinct to flee overwhelmed me. That's when I saw it, a figure emerging from the darkness, its form shifting, blending into the shadows. But there was something distinct about its face, something that froze me in place. It was humanoid, yet twisted in ways I couldn't begin to comprehend, eyes glimmering with a predatory hunger. I had to get out. I turned to run, but the passage loomed ahead like a gaping mouth. Would I escape, or would the darkness swallow me whole? I bolted into the passage, my breath hitching in my throat. The air was thick, cloying, and every inch of me screamed to escape. The darkness pressed in tighter, but I didn't dare look back. I needed to put distance between myself and that thing. With a renewed sense of urgency, I squeezed through the narrow gap, aware of something slick on the stone. My fingers flew over the surface. Blood. The realization sent a bolt of ice through my veins. Whatever had been here wasn't just a creature. It was dangerous. I burst into a larger hallway, my flashlight flickering wildly. The beam caught glimpses of the walls, showing more of those ominous symbols. They twisted in bizarre patterns, almost seeming to pulse with hidden energy. I wiped my sweaty palms down my jeans trying to focus. Each symbol felt like a warning inscribed in stone. Then I heard it again. A rustling closer now. I turned quickly, my heart thudding. A small creature scurried past my feet, darting into a shadow. It looked like a rodent, but larger, something about it just off, its eyes glinting with a knowing terror. Whatever it had seen didn't inspire confidence. I pressed on, desperate to find a way out. Just ahead, I spotted an opening in the wall. This couldn't be the same passage I'd come from. There was something different about it. My instincts screamed for me to go. I stepped toward it, but then I hesitated. A low growl rumbled from behind, sending chills straight through me. I turned just in time to see the creature, no longer just a shadow but a thing of nightmares, fully present now. It crouched, its elongated limbs stretching unnaturally, the light catching its glistening eyes bright with hunger. "Help me." It echoed this time, the tone chillingly similar to the voice I'd heard earlier. This wasn't an innocent plea. It felt like a trap, a voice crafted to lure. Without thinking, I bolted toward the opening. I had to escape, but just as I neared it, the growling turned to snarling, and a shift in the shadows made me freeze. There was more than one. I could feel their eyes on me, blending in and out of reality. I leapt into the opening, crawling on my hands and knees through the damp, rough stone. My flashlight flickered again, but I didn't have time to worry about its failing battery. I could hear them behind me, racing to catch up. Suddenly, I found myself in another small chamber. A flash of panic filled me as I saw the back wall was unyielding rock. No other exit. Just as the shadows poured in behind me, I spotted something strange. Another amulet, this one glinting with a deep crimson hue. My instincts told me to grab it. It had to be important. But as my fingers closed around it, the air shifted again. A whisper, barely audible, slithered through the cave. "Take it, and you'll wish you hadn't." A piercing screech reverberated through the chamber, forcing me to look back. The twisted creature stood just outside the opening, its form writhing, almost ephemeral. I had to decide, and fast. The amulet's weight pulled at me. The darkness pressed closer. Should I hold onto it or drop it and take my chances? Time was running out. Would this choice seal my fate? I could feel time slipping away. The amulet rested heavily in my palm. I had to make a choice, but the growl outside the opening shook me to my core. I could hear the scratching now, claws clawing against stone. Without thinking, I shoved the amulet into my pocket, hoping it wouldn't weigh me down too much. I pivoted back to the chamber's wall, my heart racing. There had to be another way out. The creature would be upon me any second. I pressed my hands against the stone, searching for any sign of weakness. My fingers found a thin crack near the edge. With a desperate shove, I pushed against the rock, praying it would budge. It felt solid, but then, wait, there was a slight give. Just as I felt a rush of hope, the creature lunged into the chamber. Its eyes glowed brighter than I would have imagined possible, filled with hunger and malice. I had only a moment before it would be fully inside. I dropped to my knees and forced my shoulder against the wall. The crack widened just enough for me to slip through. I squeezed my body through, feeling sharp edges bite against my skin. I didn't look back. I just pushed forward, breathless and terrified. Suddenly I tumbled out into a new corridor. This one felt colder, too quiet. I could no longer hear the scratching or breathing from behind me, but I knew better than to assume I was safe. I stood, my head spinning. The hallway stretched out before me, lined with dark doors. My flashlight flickered again, and I cursed under my breath. I could feel the amulet pressing against my side, almost buzzing now. It was unlike anything I'd ever felt, pulsing with energy. I took a deep breath. Whatever I had unleashed could only lead to more questions. With the instinct of survival kicking in, I chose a door at random, its surface worn and rough beneath my fingertips. I pushed it open slowly, wary of the consequences. Inside, there was another small chamber, but this one was empty, bleak and desolate. Except for the symbols. They were here too. My skin prickled as I traced one with my finger. It felt warm to the touch and seemed to vibrate slightly. As I focused on it, the whispers grew louder, echoing in my mind. Release him. Free him. They beckoned. Then the amulet in my pocket began to burn. I yanked it out, holding it in front of me. The crimson glow illuminated the chamber, revealing something unexpected. In the shadows, I could make out a figure. A man, his face twisted in anguish. "Help me!" he cried, his voice raw and desperate, eerily mirroring my earlier encounter. "You have to free me before they come." I felt a mix of dread and resolve. Who was this man? Was he trapped here by the beasts that hunted me? I hesitated, the weight of my decision pressing down like the oppressive darkness around me. I could either try to free him with all its unknown consequences, or keep running with the knowledge that something was waiting just outside. Before I could think it through, I wrenched the amulet closer to the symbol on the wall. Just as a shimmering light enveloped the space, a sudden roar erupted from the corridor, sending my entire body into panic. I realized then that whatever path I took, there was no turning back. The air grew thick with a low hum, pulsing from the amulet in my hands. As the light intensified, I caught a glimpse of the tortured man's face, etched with fear and desperation. He reached out, shadows clinging to his form as if trying to pull him back. My heart screamed at me to run, but my body refused. "What do I do?" I shouted, barely able to hear my own voice over the chaos in my mind. The whispers became a chorus, growing louder, merging with the creature's roar from beyond the door. "Draw the symbol," he begged, his voice raw, almost pleading. "It will break the seal." I felt paralyzed, but something in his eyes urged me onwards. I had no other option. I closed my eyes, focusing on the tremors of the amulet. I looked back at the symbol on the wall. It flickered with an insistent glow, as if alive, begging me to act. There was something more to it. I could feel it calling to me, guiding me. In a rush of adrenaline, I took a step forward. I pressed the amulet against the glowing symbol, feeling a jolt of energy surge through me. The chamber flared with light, the energy radiating outward like ripples in water. The man's form brightened as the shadows fought to maintain their grip. The roar outside became deafening, a primal sound that echoed off the walls. I turned my head toward the door, bracing for the worst, but I couldn't pull my gaze away from the man in front of me. His features morphed, shifting like smoke as the light consumed him. Suddenly, the air cooled, plunging the room into darkness. The amulet felt hot against my skin, almost searing. I gritted my teeth against the pain, determined to hold on. Just then, I felt a weight settle inside me, as if the essence of the man had intertwined with my very being. Memories and emotions flashed before my eyes, fragments of a past, barely tangible, yet intimately familiar. Then came a deafening crash. The door behind me flew open, revealing a dark, hulking figure silhouetted against the dim corridor. It took a single step inside, eyes gleaming with an otherworldly hunger. Panic surged through me like fire, and I knew I had to act fast. What had I unleashed? There was no time to think about it now. My legs moved on instinct. I darted to the side, searching for a way out. The towering creature advanced, blocking any clear escape. But then I noticed something, an outline in the darkness, a narrow passageway beside the wall. I didn't think. I just ran toward it, feeling the amulet pulsing like a heartbeat, as if urging me forward. The creature roared again, but this time it was almost a growl laced with surprise. Maybe it hadn't expected me to evade it so easily. I squeezed through the narrow opening, feeling the cold walls scrape against my skin. As I plunged into the dark tunnel, I could still hear the echoes of the man's voice in my mind, now laced with urgency. Find the others. Free them all. Just as I thought I could breathe, the passage began to twist, pulling me deeper into this labyrinth. My heart raced, uncertainty clawing at me. The whispers faded, but I could still feel the weight of his plea anchoring me as I pressed on. Then, everything went still. The air felt heavier, an ominous silence enveloping me. It was then that the hair on my neck stood up. I wasn't alone anymore. I sensed eyes watching from somewhere deeper in the void. I turned, my anxiety mounting. Someone was in the shadows. I held my breath as I took a cautious step back. The darkness felt alive, wrapping around me like a wet blanket. I strained my ears, trying to catch any sound, but there was only the rapid beating of my heart. The prickle of fear crawled over my skin, a rising tide of dread. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. No answer, just silence. But I could feel it. The presence watching me, lurking somewhere just out of sight. I forced myself to take another step into the tunnel. It twisted sharply, and I stumbled, bracing against the rough stone. My hands trembled as I clutched the amulet, a small beacon in the suffocating blackness. The tunnel opened into a wider space, and I paused, scanning the area. Shadows danced on the walls, playing tricks on my already frayed nerves. I could almost hear whispers, words half-formed slipping through the fissures of my mind, taunting me. "Look for the door, a way out," a voice urged, but it was thin and distant, like smoke on the wind. Before I could think, I took another step forward. The air shifted suddenly, a chill that sent shivers down my spine. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement, a figure emerging from the shadows. It was no longer just eyes watching me, it had shape and form. I froze. It was tall and sinewy, skin stretched tight over muscle. The creature's face was painted in dark patterns, a mask of horror. Its eyes glowed an unsettling yellow, and as it looked at me, a guttural growl reverberated from deep within its chest. Instinct kicked in. I bolted. The passageway became a blur as I raced down it, heart thudding in my ears. Footsteps followed, heavy and deliberate, growing closer with every inch I gained. I thought about what the man had said, free them all. Who were they? Were they trapped down here like he was? Suddenly I was forced to slow as the tunnel split into 3 paths, each one as foreboding as the last. I glanced back. The creature had slowed, watching. It inhaled deeply as if savoring my fear. "Think," I shouted at myself. There was a promise of escape, but I had no clue which direction to take. Then I remembered the amulet. I felt its heat against my palm, and my fingers brushed the symbol etched into its surface. I closed my eyes, whispering a silent prayer, hoping it held answers. Then everything changed. The amulet glowed brighter, casting an ethereal light. I opened my eyes to see the paths shimmer briefly, the middle tunnel glowing with an inviting warmth. "Go, go!" The voice pounded in my mind, urging me to choose. Without hesitating, I sprinted toward the illuminated passage. The creature let out a chilling roar behind me. I could feel its fury, but fear propelled me forward. I could see hints of movement in the tunnel ahead, shapes darting just out of view. It filled me with hope, but as I ran, I realized I couldn't stop. Not until I knew what lay at the end of this nightmarish maze. I pushed on, the amulet pulsing like a beacon in the dark. I had to find the others. I had to free them. But as I turned a corner, my chest tightened. That's when I saw it. The walls were lined with cages, each one filled with shadows, writhing and watching with desperate eyes. They were like the man I had seen before, each one trapped, lost. They were waiting for someone to save them. But I had no idea how. I stood frozen, breath caught in my throat, as I took in the sight around me. The cages swayed slightly, rattling against their rusted bars, a haunting symphony of despair. Each shadow stirred within, eyes wide and pleading, mouths soundlessly crying for help. My pulse raced. I wanted to scream to shatter the silence, but words failed me. "What happened to you?" I whispered, not expecting an answer. They were trapped, just like I had been, and I felt both terrified and compelled to act. I stepped closer to one cage, drawn by a flicker of movement. A young girl with tangled hair stared back at me, desperation etched on her face. Her fingers gripped the bars, trembling. "Please," she mouthed, though no sound escaped. This was it. I had to do something. The amulet in my hand throbbed, its warmth wrapping around my fingers like a lifeline. I pressed my palm against the bars, channeling my fear and uncertainty into a silent plea for guidance. A soft glow radiated from the amulet, casting a dim light across the corridor. The shadows momentarily brightened, revealing more details, another cage, and another. Men and women, all trapped and waiting for someone to break this nightmarish cycle. "What can I do?" I breathed, feeling utterly powerless. In response, the amulet pulsed harder, the energy almost urging me onward. I had to figure out a way to help them. Suddenly, crashing echoed through the tunnel. My heart leapt into my throat as I turned to see the creature barreling toward me, eyes fixed on my amulet, the glow reflecting in its predatory gaze. It had transformed into a blur of speed and fury, and I realized I had to move, now. "Back away from them," I shouted, taking a few steps back, forming a barrier between the creature and the cages. I didn't know where the confidence came from, but a surge of courage flared within me. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to plunge into the unknown. The creature stopped, its growl rumbling low and deep, vibrating through the air. It tilted its head, confused, as if assessing my defiance. With a burst of adrenaline, I reached for the amulet again, the symbols glowing brighter in response to my rising panic. "You can't have them," I yelled, feeling the truth behind my words. They deserved freedom, not to be preyed upon by this monster. At my declaration, the light from the amulet shot forward, illuminating the darkness like the sun breaking through stormy clouds. The shadows in the cages shrank away from the brilliance, and even the creature seemed to flinch, retreating slightly. The girl in the cage shouted, her voice finally breaking through the silence. "Find the key," she cried out, pointing to a small cupboard against the wall behind her. My eyes widened. Could that be it? I felt the ground shift beneath me as the creature regained its focus. I was out of time. "I'll free you," I shouted to the shadows. "Stay back." I turned on my heel and sprinted toward the cupboard, heart racing, the weight of desperation pushing me on. I could hear the extended growl of the creature behind me, but I didn't look back. I had to trust the amulet, the voices, and myself. When I stumbled upon the cupboard, my hands fumbled with the latch, knowing what I had to find was hidden inside. I didn't know how much longer I had before the creature would be upon me, and with that thought everything went dark again. I wrenched open the cupboard door, praying for something, anything that could help me. The interior was filled with a jumble of items, bones of forgotten creatures, and a collection of rusty keys. My heart pounded as I rifled through them, hands trembling under the mounting pressure of time. The growl of the creature was closer now, the sound reverberating against the walls, a warning of impending doom. A flash of silver glimmered in the faint light as my fingers brushed against a key that seemed to hum with energy. The others bunched into shadowy shapes, but this one felt different. I yanked it free and glanced over my shoulder. The creature lunged forward, dark and monstrous, eyes glinting with that insatiable hunger. Panic surged through me. "No!" I shouted. I bolted back toward the girl in the cage, the only flicker of hope in this encroaching darkness. My breath hitched as I reached her, thrusting the key toward the lock. This should work. I slipped it into the keyhole, heart racing, twisted it, and felt a rush of satisfaction as it clicked. The bars trembled slightly, then shifted, giving way with an eerie creak. "Go now," I urged the girl, but she hesitated, eyes wide with fear. "I can't leave them," she cried, glancing toward the others in their cages, all desperate to be set free. "Help me." The voice of the man echoed in my mind, reminding me of the urgency of the moment. I could hear the creature recoiling, regrouping for another attack. I had to act. "We'll free them together. Just trust me." The girl nodded, fear mirrored in her eyes. Both of us moved swiftly to the next cage, another key in hand. I fumbled, the creature's growl shaking me to my core. The pulsing amulet felt hot in my pocket, alive, as if warning me. I found the next lock, breathed deep, and turned the key. One by one, the shadows emerged from their prisons, a chorus of whispered gratitude swirling around us, each figure stepping into the light with lifeless eyes and weary frames. But the creature was relentless. A heady rush of air announced its charge toward us. "Hurry!" I called, glancing over my shoulder as the monstrous figure filled the space behind me, its growl echoing through the cavern. The agitated shadows rushed forward, caught up in the momentum, desperate for freedom. "We can make it." The last of the girl's chains crumbled under my deft hands, and she bolted ahead, guided by instinct and the light. The group surged forward, but it wasn't enough. The creature lunged, its gnarled claws swiping viciously. "Back to the opening!" I shouted, rallying us all as we stumbled toward the pathway that had led us here. The exit loomed darkly at the end of the hall, but hope flickered in our chests. The roar of the creature echoed, reverberating through the cavern as if it wanted to reclaim its prey. I could feel its breath on my neck, hot and filled with rage. The shadows flickered like candles around us, urging us onward. As we approached the opening, the darkness felt alive, gathering power, swirling around like smoke. But the glow of the amulet pulsed beside me, guiding our steps. "Don't stop! Just keep going!" I yelled, my voice strained with the urgency that propelled me through. The entrance drew nearer, illuminating the way with hope, and I dug deep, gathering every ounce of strength. But just as we reached it, a roar of fury filled the air. It shattered my focus momentarily. I could see the creature lunging, its fury unleashed. In that instant, time slowed. I braced for impact, but the shadows surged past me, buoyed by some unseen force, filling the void with their numbers. The amulet grew blistering hot in my hand, and I looked up just in time to see the swarm of shadows coalesce into a barrier between us and the creature, an improvised defense made tangible. I felt the jagged edges of desperation twist in my gut. But there was no time for hesitation. We'd reached the brink, the entrance just out of reach, the shadows charging forward, creating a scuffle of desperation. I could hear anguished cries, the primal energy swirling, and realized the shadows weren't just shadows. They were the spirits of those who had come before me, trapped, wanting to be freed. And in that moment of realization, I felt a connection, a whisper of understanding. Just as I felt I'd lose control, I raised the amulet high, groaning through the pain of its heat. "We are free," I shouted, the words laced with power and defiance. Light surged from every corner, illuminating the cavern with blinding brightness. The barrier of shadows thrust outward, biting back the creature's advance. Unyielding, it roared in rage, but the shadows surged again, rebellious as they moved forward, leaving dark streaks across the walls. We rushed through the opening, barreling into the world above. As I stumbled into the open air, the sudden chill felt like freedom wrapping around me. We were outside, beneath a twilight sky bursting with stars, distant and comforting. But even as the shadows uncoiled from the entrance, I could feel the weight of questions lingering behind. Had we truly escaped? As I turned to watch the entrance dimming in the distance, I felt the amulet cool in my pocket, its power waning. "Are we really free?" I whispered to myself, uncertainty gnawing at the edges of my mind. I turned back toward the canyons, knowing it would haunt me. and glanced back at those who had escaped with me. Each face reflected a shared pain, a connection forged through darkness. We were free, yet the shadows would ever linger on the periphery, whispers of a deeper mystery. And even as we stepped away from that threshold, I realized the answers I sought remained just beyond reach. The truth of what I had encountered still out there, locked in the shadows, waiting for another unwitting traveler to uncover. I would never return to that canyon, but those echoes would stay with me always. What had I released into the world? I'd never know the full truth, and that understanding rippled like unease through my veins. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I dream of the canyon, of the cries that would call me back, of the shadows that would forever roam the vast spaces between light and dark. I wonder if those spirits still linger, watching, waiting, for someone someday to answer their call.